I want to get back to that, but let's go. I want to kind of get to know you. Go way back to the beginning, like you kind of. And what was your first exposure to music? How did you get into music in the first place?
I remember buying a pirate cassette of Wham's The Final album at Abu Dhabi airport with my parents on the way to Belgium, going back home to visit family when I was like 6 years old. So I don't know. I don't know what it was that maybe tipped that off. Maybe I just heard the track playing at the little sort of pirate music store and was like, I want that cassette.
Yeah.
But at about age 10, I got really into the KLF. I was massively into them, and I collected all their cassette singles. And I was pretty obsessive about them, listening to them on my Walkman, you know, in the back of the car, and doing homework and stuff like that. So yeah, KLF made an early impression.
What about growing up? Like, what did your parents have on the speakers around the house? Were you exposed to early on?
They had a lot of folk music, like from Scotland and Australia. There's a Scottish-born but sort of Australian legend folk singer called Eric Bogle, who my parents listened to a lot when I was young. And so while I was, you know, listening to the KLF on my headphones, I was steadfastly ignoring his music. But it must have seeped in, you know, somehow quite deeply, because I've come to love his music, and sort of there's really special songs that he's written over the years that now, you know, to me they bring a tear to my eye almost every time I hear them. I don't know if that's the nostalgic element of it coming from my childhood and sort of having, you know, worked a place into my heart somehow. But I went to see him at this country music festival in Australia a few years back. One of the best shows I've ever seen.
Really?
I was like a 22-year-old guy sitting amongst 60, 70-year-old dudes, you know, they're all with white hair.
Yeah.
And he's playing to a pretty old audience these days at these country festivals, but I was amazing. I love his songs. So.
Well, I can hear that influence in your music a little bit, because it takes some of the newer pop, electronic, instrumental elements, but also that folk element as well.
Yes, I mean, I'm, you know, and sampling a lot of old stuff, I guess. Yeah. There's, you know, there's a lot of kind of looking backward and trying to bring things into the present in what I do, I guess, yeah.
What about your first music instrument? What was that?
Drums.
Set of drums?
Yeah. It took me until I was 16 to convince my folks to buy me a set.
What was your... Yeah, I bet. It's always interesting talking to drummers to see how they got around the noise factor around the house. Yeah. Did you have to do it in the garage or out?
I had a bedroom area downstairs, so my parents were pretty tolerant. You know, I was practicing pretty hard, like every night, 2-3 hours, and they just let me, you know, go for it.
Now let's go through the list of instruments you play. Give me the rundown of what you're versed in.
It's not going to be very long. Drums is the main one. You know, I sing. I play keys, lots of synths and piano, but I don't you know, play it particularly well. I play the studio mainly. You know, I just like finding lots of odd sounds and lots of odd instruments to try and find my own peculiar way of engaging with them to make sounds. So I'm no Prince, let's say, you know, pretty much eclipses anybody on any instrument.
And then how did it go from you just playing drums around the house to developing as an artist, to making music, to getting other musicians involved? How did that process come about?
Well, yeah, I was, you know, avidly just practicing drums a lot in my teenage years, but you know, I was already into, I don't know, I guess I was just curious about harmony songwriting, so I just gravitated towards the family piano and started messing around, spending hours just working out chords and, you know, playing along to Pink Floyd songs and working out Depeche Mode tracks I was really interested in. And I was so obsessed with Depeche Mode for a period being a teenager. I think the kind of harmony vocabulary of Martin Gore, their main songwriter, had a big effect on me. It's kind of like, I think I copped a lot of his songwriting licks for many years.
Yeah.
And that got me interested in production, you know, different ways you could make sounds, got really into trying to collect synths, you know, I kind of had that techno lust, kind of like, you know, looking in shops going, oh, that synthesizer is the answer to all my sound designing, you know, dreams or something. And,
yeah.
And then got over that a bit, and you know, when I got into sampling, I think that was partly maybe a pragmatic response to kind of realising that sometimes that techno lust is a bit of a dead end, and you can spend a long time obsessing about gear you could own and spending money, and it doesn't actually help you write songs or make new interesting sounds. You just got to get out there and, you know, find interesting ways to do that and try to find your own way to put a stamp on getting original sounds happening.
Yeah, after seeing you last night, the word audiophile came to mind. Like, you seem like someone who's just in love with sound and putting sound together in different layers. And is that an accurate description of you?
Yeah, I'd say so. I get a lot of people emailing me. I'd say, you know, when people talk about audiophiles, it sometimes often means people who aren't so into music. It's almost like they're more into the concept of audio and technology more than music itself. You know, they're into ultra high res formats, and I get people, you know, kind of emailing me going, I bought your high-res version of Making Mirrors on your website, but why isn't it 24-bit 96K? And I'm like, well,
yeah,
I recorded the whole album at 44K, so there's no reason I was going to upsample it. You know, it wouldn't add any quality to it that wasn't already there. You know, and the reason I recorded at a lower rate is because that's all I could fit on my hard drive over the last 2 years. But they're like, oh, you know, well, let me know when, you know, you do tape masters and, you know, you get a vinyl master done from tape, and I'm like, are you listening to the music?
Exactly right.
But so I mean, yeah, I mean that's one kind of audiophile. But yeah, I mean, as you say, I do love just playing with sound, and you know, I love the collision of things that feel like, you know, something I haven't heard before. So it can seem contradictory because I do kind of go back to so many old records and old styles of music and try to find lots of textures and incidental sounds that I guess are, you know, by their nature they're old. They exist, you know, they're often forgotten. They're from obscure records from the last decades. But there's something about them just appeals to me on a textural level, or kind of a context that when you put them in a different context and you combine them with something else, if that feels kind of new to me and feels somehow exciting, then you know, they're kind of the most exciting moments I have when I'm just tinkering with things. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And